In December of 2021, the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, issued what she called a message to the world. And this was somewhat unusual because as the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul's job is to deliver messages to New Yorkers. But on this occasion, she decided to speak to a much larger audience. And here's what she said. After reading the poem from the Statue of Liberty, quote, "Send us your people, send us those who need the cloak of comfort that we can demonstrate as New Yorkers with big hearts and open arms, and will provide a safe haven. We want people to come here despite where they came from. We'll not only house you, but we will protect you." Well, that's what she said, and what followed is exactly what you would expect. More than 10,000 illegals started pouring into New York City every month, looking for the cloak of comfort that Kathy Hochul offered them. They took her up on that offer. And now, as I mentioned before, they're being housed in schools and airports and furniture stores because the shelters, including government-subsidized hotels, are overrun. Now, there's a very well-rehearsed deflection that you'll hear from Hochul if you bring any of this up. And this is a reply that local news stations in New York will parrot at every opportunity since effectively they work for Kathy Hochul. Watch.
Governor, I want to ask you about one of the many issues that New Yorkers are facing and the whole country is the issue around immigration. So mayors across the country, I should say, are pleading for more federal government assistance. New York alone had 178,000 migrants who came into the state, and there's been issues around housing, schooling, medicine for these people, and it's draining billions from city budgets. Now, Mayor Adams has raised the idea of changing sanctuary city laws so that migrants aren't flocking to major cities. Do you support this, and what do you think needs to be done to fix this influx of migration?
Well, first of all, let's just say we are a nation of immigrants. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting here because my grandparents were teenagers in Ireland leaving great poverty. Mm-hmm. Grandpa started as a migrant farm worker himself in South Dakota in the wheat fields. Mm-hmm. They were domestic servants in Chicago until they heard about the promised land of Buffalo, New York. You could make steel with your hands and get a good paying union job. And that's what changed my whole family's history. Those jobs are here in the state of New York.
You have to ask.
Before we ask you some really important questions, I want to know if you would like to do a dentist commercial. Since you are a governor of New York State, maybe in South Dakota.
The implication here is that America is a nation of immigrants who work hard, like Kathy Hochul's Irish grandparents. And whatever we do, we shouldn't demonize people who come here and want to work hard. We shouldn't point out that we're importing the dregs of society into our country right now. If you speak in platitudes instead, then you'll get applauded by the audience of The View, and you can keep your job running New York into the ground. What's left unsaid here is that there is, in fact, a very definite difference between the immigrants of old and the new variety that we're importing. Aside from the fact that these new entrants are all breaking the law in the most flagrant fashion imaginable, but on top of that, immigrants in the old days would come here with a spirit of gratitude and humility, hoping to build a life. And in the process, they helped to build the country because they were coming here at a time when the country was not itself completely built. They did what Kathy Hochul's grandparents did, which is work hard. But immigrants now are coming to a country already completely settled and built. These are not pioneers, going out west into the wilderness to establish settlements. They're coming into something that's already been made, and they're very clearly hoping to benefit from it without necessarily contributing anything to it. And that's one of the key differences between the old immigrants and the people entering the country right now. And that difference was on full display this week at New York City's City Hall, which for some reason held a hearing on the experiences of African migrants in the city. Essentially, this was a hearing on the plight of black illegals who come into the city. According to City Council member Alex Aviles, who organized the hearing, it's important to understand, quote, the experiences of black immigrants and to uproot the anti-blackness that plagues our system of care. And this work requires a city willing to fund our short, mid, and long-term needs. Over 1,000 people showed up, most of them recent arrivals from West Africa. Many of them were apparently looking for work permits, which they thought would be handed out. And that's pretty funny when you think about it. These people come to this country with absolutely no regard for the law. And the first thing they hear is that Democrats are holding a hearing. And they immediately assume that they're going to get free stuff at the hearing. That's the automatic assumption right now for these arrivals. And they were shocked to learn that actually, in this one instance, they would not be getting free stuff. Instead, they'd be getting a chance to complain and whine for hours on end. So that's what they did. Here's a representative complaint from one of these people. Listen.
But
at the shelter, the food, my kids cannot eat the food at the shelter.
Kasuma edo men sonjino moƴƴa parce que tawi kadi horu gongol arta e kikiɗe tawa ñamete on a wawata mo ñamude.
And on Ramadan time, we couldn't eat because when you come back for the breaks, the food is no good at all.
Food's no good at all. Wow, what a shame. She goes on to complain about a bunch of other things besides the food for Ramadan. She complains that she can't find a school for her kid, as well as the fact that she apparently had to leave a shelter after 2 months and find another one. Now, it's hard to listen to any of it because the total lack of gratitude and humility is frankly appalling. These people are demanding everything and not necessarily offering anything in return. There was not a single moment during this hearing where these West Africans told New York City how they were excited to contribute to the local economy. They never said how grateful they were to leave a country where the GDP is about 70 times lower than it is in the United States. Instead, they're complaining about the free cuisine provided by the government. They're upset about the housing that they're not paying for. This is a city where many young people, American citizens, cannot afford housing. But New York City City Council is not concerned about them. So instead, we're treated to even more whining. At one point, these foreigners complained about the lack of adequate translation services. They also berated New York for being a racist hellhole because the government isn't providing them a translator who understands every dialect that they speak. They never explained why they traveled thousands of miles to live in this racist hellhole in the first place. But they did make it clear that they're not happy here and it's not up to their standards. Watch.
This is shameful time in New York history. This city is not friendly for all people. It is anti-African and xénophobique. Cette ville n'est pas du tout accueillante pour les Africains. Elle est raciste et xénophobe. Only in the Congo, you have more than 500 languages. Swahili is being spoken in Burundi. So I can speak with somebody from Burundi, but I cannot speak Swahili with somebody from Mauritania. You understand? In Europe, a Turkish don't talk for a French. A French don't talk for a Spanish. So why it is that you will put everybody in Africa in the same bag and thinking that because they speak Asanya, because they speak Pearl, everybody will understand. You see? I told you Hakuna Matata, you couldn't understand anything. You see? So that's what we need. We need people that speak the native language to teach to those people. That's what we're asking the city, and the city refused to acclimate.
Okay, so leave. So leave. This place is xenophobic, it's racist, it's horrible for us. Okay, we'll leave. Nobody asked you to come here. No one invited you, no one asked you to come. Certainly no one put a gun to your head and told you to come here. We didn't force you to come. So just leave then. It's a pretty simple solution. If you hate it so much, if it's so terrible to you, why are you here? It's like someone barging into your house and then sitting on your couch and complaining that the couch isn't comfortable. I don't like this. This is not my favorite couch. Okay, well, you weren't invited, so you can leave. This is my couch, not yours. Go get your own couch. I don't know. Well, it's 2024, and if you're still spending your money with woke companies, cut it out. There are a lot of great companies out there that aren't shoving diversity and inclusion initiatives down the throats of their employees or their customers. Maybe you're already doing business with some of these, and that's great. Maybe you're boycotting companies who have made headlines by acquiring the latest trans influencer as their spokesperson. That's even better. But have you given much thought to where your money is currently invested? A lot of big wealth management companies make billions of dollars investing your money however they want, wherever they want, even if that means investing in businesses who don't care about your values. Align your portfolio with your principles today with my friends at Constitution Wealth. Constitution Wealth is the Patriot's choice in wealth management. They'll help you build a solid investment plan while reducing your investments in the ESGs and DEIs, companies that care more about global warming and diversity ratios than they do about the return on your investment. And with Constitution Wealth, you can start using your shareholder votes to support conservative action. Fight the culture war with your most valuable weapon, your investments. Help build the parallel economy by working with an investment firm composed of professionals who are patriots like you. If you have $250,000 or more of stock and bond investments and would like to reduce your exposure to woke companies, go to constitutionwealth.com/Matt. That's constitutionwealth.com/Matt. Yes, how dare New York City not provide 500 different translators for every dialect spoken in just one African country? You know, in all, there are something like 7,000 languages spoken in the whole world. And apparently, New York is supposed to have a translator for every single one of them. If not, they're xenophobic. This is the level of entitlement that we're dealing with. And we're getting it from people who are coming from third world hellholes. They come here from the third world and then immediately inherit a first world sense of entitlement. It's pretty extraordinary, really. Now, it goes without saying that the Irish immigrants who came to this country in the 19th century did not try to pull any of this. They didn't have an opportunity to, even if they wanted to. No one would have indulged any of this nonsense. So they got to work. They made the economic contributions that Kathy Hochul loves to brag about. What's uncomfortable for people like Kathy Hochul is that the Irish endured a lot of discrimination along the way, and leftists will claim that they're determined to avoid a similar situation unfolding again. But no discrimination is necessary to fix what's happening in New York. All that's necessary is to tell every single person who comes to this country, regardless of their immutable characteristics, that they need to do it legally or get the hell out. And no matter how they get here, there's no excuse for whining for hours to the city council about all the perks they want to have. The moment they do that, they should be put on a boat back to where they came from. You know, if that's discrimination, it's discrimination that's based on behavior, which any functioning society must embrace if it wants to survive. Now, as far as I can tell, Vicky Palladino was one of the only council members at this hearing who spoke up in any way against this insanity. And at the same time, she didn't really say anything close to what was necessary, because what was necessary, what someone needed to say was exactly what I just said, which is, if you don't like it, leave. Okay, how about a thank you? How about the first words out of your mouth if you're going to sit there in our country at this hearing and we're inviting you to come and speak? First words out of your mouth should be, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for providing all the things that you have provided. So I would have loved for someone to say that. Of course, that wasn't going to happen. Instead, we got this. Watch.
But I'd like to say this. In listening to everybody speak and making demands on New York City to do more, how much more are we supposed to do? How much more are we capable of doing? This system is so overworked and overburdened. We don't have the resources that you need to get what you need. I mean, your testimonies move me tremendously. I don't want to see anybody mistreated in any sort of way. But I have to ask you, what motivated you to come here thinking the streets are paved with gold? They're not. They're absolutely not. And you're living through that.
Now, the answer to the question of what made you come here is pretty obvious. The governor of the state begged them to come. The federal government suspended the enforcement of immigration law and promised them all kinds of benefits, including work permits and indefinite asylum. And their country is incredibly poor. So, I mean, why wouldn't they come here? That's the thing. I don't, as annoyed as I am by the entitlement, by the lack of gratitude, by how self-serving it is, I understand self-serving. I get it. Any person understands that. In fact, you know, coming here is a rational choice. You could argue they're the only rational actors in this whole scenario. They have every incentive to continue complaining because so far it's worked out pretty well for them. If they complain, they get what they want. What's needed now is for New York's leaders to tell these West Africans that they're getting nothing and then deport them if they're here illegally. But of course, that will never happen. Kathy Hochul will never tell the audience of The View that these immigrants are nothing like her grandfather, you know, and that it's an entirely different situation, and that people who come here illegally are, you know, all that. The audience would not clap like seals if she did that, so she's not going to say that. So instead, they'll continue to enjoy Kathy Hochul's cloak of comfort, as she calls it, which simply means indefinite access to New York's ever-dwindling treasury. American citizens will continue to flee New York, and eventually, when New York's treasury can't afford to give these people anything more, they'll spread out throughout the country. And that's already happening, of course, but it will accelerate in a major way once New York and the rest of the country falls apart. Because there's one basic common sense truth here. If you import the third world en masse, you become the third world. And once that happens, you won't be in a position to take care of the third world anymore. And much more importantly, you won't be in a position to take care of yourself. And that's why the migrants complaining about their accommodations at that hearing are today canceled. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.